Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is someone who proves that it's never too late to take control of your life and start again. Debbie Weiss is a best-selling author, speaker, and podcast host who shares powerful insights on resilience, identity, and rebuilding your life after years of putting everyone else first. After decades of struggling with a victim mentality and facing challenges like caregiving, infertility, and loss, Debbie experienced a major turning point at 50 that changed how she showed up for her life. Today, she helped others understand that real change doesn't come from waiting, it comes from small intentional shifts. Debbie, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Sekani. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So yeah, heads up. So we're gonna be diving a little bit into your 20s, right?
Well, it's a long time back.
Okay. Well, you look like you're in your 20s though.
Oh, all right. Now I'll talk to you for the rest of my life after such a nice compliment.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so take us back to your 20s. What was your
Mhm.
mindset like back then, and how did you see your future?
Well, I can say that I think at 21, I actually had a nervous breakdown.
Hmm.
It seems like at that point in my life, well, let me go back. I was not a kid who had any self-confidence. As a matter of fact, it was really just the opposite. I've always struggled with my weight, and so my how much I weigh kind of has always defined me. And of course, as a kid, being bullied and picked on, even though I had a lot of friends, even my friends, would have these loving pet names like Big Mama or Thunder Thighs, not very loving. And so I didn't want to be seen because I felt like every time I put myself out there, I was judged for the way I looked. So who would want to do that? So what wound up happening is the day after I graduated from high school, my father, who was days from away from turning 46, had a massive stroke and survived. And my parents were married, but they had had marital problems a few years earlier. And basically, my parents wound up divorcing. My father became permanently disabled and couldn't take care of himself. He could live in an apartment by himself, like he had learned to dress himself and do some of those things. So my mother wound up finding a place for him to live in an independent living facility. And like I said, he was 46 and everybody else was 86. And after my parents divorced, I basically became his caregiver. Even though he didn't live with me, I had to worry about everything. Did he have groceries, doctor's appointments, or troubles, paying his bills for him, hooking up telephone, all these things that really, when you're just getting started in life, you're starting to learn that stuff for yourself. Well, after I graduated from college, simultaneously, I had my father to deal with. I had moved in with my best friend at the time, and she and I were not getting along. So going to my apartment was horrible, and it was also like I lost my best friend. My mother started dating a guy who was a total jerk and would only let me come visit twice a week, and my mother was allowing it. And simultaneously, I broke up with my boyfriend at the time, who I actually was engaged to because he cheated on me. So, all at once, my whole world, especially being someone who's not confident, it was very, very difficult. In my mind, I lost my best friend, my mother, my fiance, and, even though my father was alive, the relationship had changed. And I was not equipped to deal with that. It was a lot. And I think that I did have a breakdown and eventually just realized that I've got to go on. and step by step just started to make decisions that changed my life. So in my 20s, my early 20s, it was not a good time. But as I got a little more confident, I had my first job. I my background is an accountant, so I'm a CPA, and so I worked for a CPA firm for 10 years, and I met people through that, and that gave me confidence. And then I actually wound up leaving the apartment with my best friend and living by myself, which was something for me, I always needed to be by people. It was a very scary step to live by myself. And taking these steps, I think definitely gave me experience, let me see that I am resilient. No matter what happens, I can move forward. It it started to build my confidence. And caring for my father also forced me to become an advocate and to speak up. Like if he's in a hospital and he needs something, or I feel like the doctor could be wrong, saying something, which is something I never would have done in the past. But I just felt that I was who my father had, and it felt different speaking up on his behalf versus my own. And so, in one sense, in my 20s, I felt empowered. And then on the other hand, I felt sorry for myself. Why me? I had that victim mentality that I didn't even know that I had. It just felt like one thing after another, right? My father has the stroke. My mother's, dating an idiot. My best friend leaves me. My fiance cheats on me. All these things. And I'm so young, and now I have this responsibility of my father. And in the United States, there are things that we have to understand as we get older, like Medicare and disability insurance and Medicaid, all these different things that in my 20s, no other 20-year-old needed to know this. This is something you learn when you're in your 50s, not in your 20s. And so I was jealous of my friends who had no responsibility, in my mind, no stress, or certainly not the same amount of stress and difficulty that I was living through. And I questioned, why me? Why did this happen to me? And that's, I think, where I found myself for a good part of my 20s and on. I mean, that victim mentality, like you said in the intro, really didn't go away until I was in my 50s.
Right. Wow. Okay, so yeah, you have such a touching story actually, but what stood out for me is the spirit of resilience, right? You always kept going. Because many people in our age, if they had gone through what you went through, I feel like they would have just stopped, just quit, right? And probably go a different path, addiction or something else. But yeah, you kept going, which makes, and it's amazing because you're here right now talking to me, which is a honor, right? So yes,
Thank
I
you.
am. I'm happy you did that, and yeah, I'm grateful also. And yeah, I can tell that from your struggles, you developed a whole lot of characteristics that makes you a better person now. So for people in their 20s, what do you think they often misunderstand about taking control of their life early?
Ugh. So I have a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old.
Mm.
And especially my 23-year-old, I see so much of me in him. He's timid. He doesn't want to, say the wrong thing at his job. Um, I don't know. He's just not one to put himself out there, which, as I said, that's how I was. And now it's so funny when I realize I've got to think about what was my mindset in my 20s, because after you live 4 more decades, you've got a lot more experience and you're a different person than you were in your 20s. And so I get it firsthand, and I do. And look, I don't want it to sound, Like there wasn't times where I was wallowing because I had a cousin who lived actually in New York City, which I lived in a suburb. And every weekend, she lived by herself. Every weekend, I would go there on Friday night and I would stay there till Sunday night. And we would just stay in, we'd watch movies, we'd eat very bad junk food, pints of ice cream. And it just felt like this safe cocoon when I was there. And I remember that feeling of hating to leave there on a Sunday, knowing what, the week was going to bring, knowing I was going back to an apartment with my best friend who hated me. It was quite a difficult time. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I just have these troubles and I'm going to be resilient. When it's happening, you don't even realize that it's happening. And I think I'm lucky in the sense that my mother is, and certainly was then, a very strong person with very strong opinions and not one to let you sit around and feel sorry for yourself. So even though I resented it at the time, her prodding and pushing probably forced me to do things I wouldn't ordinarily do. And without that, I I don't think I would have progressed because what she made me do is face something I was afraid of, right? I was afraid of living alone. I mean, my goodness, I remember at that point in my life at 21, I had never walked into a store by myself. I had either been with friends or my fiance or my mother. I had never driven to a mall and walked in alone. And the idea terrified me. And so she kind of pushed me and the circumstances that I need to face my fears. And so many of us don't want to do that. It's so difficult because it's so much easier to like stay in your little comfort zone because then you feel like nothing can come and, quote unquote, hurt you. But what I've learned is even if it doesn't work out, right? Even if you do something that seems scary, even if it was not the right thing or it didn't turn out the way you wanted, you're still learning something from it. You're taking something from that experience. That is helping you grow. And if you just stay stagnant, nothing's going to change. Yeah, I guess you'll feel safe in your little box. But my best advice is face those fears head on. And you think to yourself, maybe, oh, once I'm older or once this and this and this, then I'll do it. Like you're telling yourself stories. And I know those stories because I still tell them to myself. But I at least now can recognize that I'm doing it and then kind of force myself to take that step. And so I would say, that start with something small. So, for example, if let's go with public speaking, because even though now that's what I do, I was
Yeah.
terrified, terrified. And the only way I found out that it was something that I enjoyed and that I actually was decent at was because I faced my fears. Now, for me, that was in my mid 50s. But let's just say, let me take a different one. Let me just say, let's say that you want to go on vacation by yourself, even though that probably doesn't apply to many 20-year-olds, but it was something that I have been struggling with. But if that big thing, whatever it is that you want to do, feels too scary and too much, go back and break it down into little steps. So maybe I'm afraid to go away for a weekend by myself, but instead, what if for an afternoon I went on a day trip and all alone for a few hours I just walked, around the neighborhood, the city, wherever by myself, And if that's too big, then make it something smaller. Who knows? Maybe for you, it's like me. I was afraid to go into a store and ask a question. Start there. The idea is that thing, whatever that hurdle is, or that dream that just seems impossible or too scary, you have to go back and break it down into small steps because once you do that one little thing, it's like, oh, look at me. I did it. And it starts to give you confidence and you feel good about yourself. And it's almost like you can turn it into a game. Well, let's see what I can do next, and so on and so forth, until all of a sudden, there you are doing that thing that you thought you could never do.
Thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much already, right? So yeah, I want us to do a deep dive into what you do now. So today you talk about moving away from a victim mentality. What does that actually mean in real everyday life?
It means stop making excuses, stop feeling sorry for myself, stop telling myself, for me at this age, I'm 62 now, stop telling myself I'm too old or I don't know enough about this. I just keep going into, I don't want to say careers, but kind of different career paths that I never dreamt of writing anything in my life. As I said, I'm a CPA. I like numbers. I'm not a words person, but I've written now 3 books and other things, and it's a world I knew nothing about. And it was scary and exciting to learn about it. Same thing with speaking, like all of the things now. It doesn't mean that I'm not scared. I forced myself a week ago to go to, I don't know, I know you guys have Toastmasters. It's a speaking organization. And I thought, I'm sitting here and I speak all the time, but the more practice, the better. I'm still very afraid to get up in front of a crowd. It doesn't go away. And I didn't know anyone at Toastmasters. I really didn't want to go, but I knew I wasn't going because I was scared. And so I played like this game with myself. And up until about a half hour before I had to leave my house, I had all the excuses going in my head. Well, it's cold outside. Do I really want to go? Oh, this ends late. I have to get up early. I'll go another time. All these things are going through my head. And something I read just a couple weeks ago was every time that you make a promise to yourself and you don't keep it, you're teaching yourself that you can't trust yourself. And I think that that's interesting. And that kind of got to me. It was like, no, I said I'm going to do this. There's, besides some outrageous emergency, which there wasn't, there's no reason why I'm not going to follow through. Whether I join, whether I don't like it, whether it's, not for me, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. My goal was to go and show up and see what it was about. And literally, up until I walked into that room, I still had to kind of push myself. But after I left, I was flying high because I kept a promise and I did something that was very uncomfortable for me. So that wasn't an answer to your question. But now, since 50, I've just discovered new things or qualities about myself, like the writing, like the speaking, all of these things. I still do have a full-time job. I'm no longer a CPA. I'm an insurance agent for the last 31 years. And I'm grateful because I am self-employed and that allows me the flexibility to, not be tied down to a 9 to 5 thing and be a little bit flexible. And so now I have the podcast. I write. I'm venturing into another new area of children's books and speaking, and all of these things were things that in my wildest dreams in my 20s, if you had told me that I was going to be doing this, I would have bet you $10 million that I would not.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So yeah, you emphasize small intentional shifts through your book, the sprinkle effect. So why are small changes more powerful than big ones, actually?
Yeah, like I said before with that example of traveling alone, you
Mhm.
know, to try and climb that mountain on the first attempt is ridiculous if you've never climbed anything before. And, when you break it down to something so small, it almost feels inconsequential, like, what's the point of this? Where is this going to get me? You know, let's just say that you were wanting to lose weight, or one of the things you wanted to drink more water. Right now, you drink no water. Well, you think you're going to go from 0 glasses of water to 8 glasses of water every day? That feels like that mountain. So start with a quarter cup of water. And you could say to yourself, oh, that's too easy. Well, you know what? That's okay. Do it. Do it every day, even though it's easy. And you'll see to yourself, oh, all right, now I got this down. Now let me bump it up to half a cup. And you just keep going, especially in your 20s. Even now in my 60s, I am not concerned about time. You can't think to yourself, oh my goodness, well, if I only start with quarter cup of water, how long is it going to take me to get all the way up to 8 cups of water? I'm making this up. Maybe it's going to take me a year. A year? That's ridiculous. You're in your 20s. Who cares how long it takes you? You have to realize that whatever you're doing is something for yourself for the rest of your life. There's no time frame set to it. Stop giving yourself these false parameters, really, because it's just another story that you're telling yourself. I'm not even going to drink the quarter cup of water because what is that? Literally, what is that going to do? Nothing, right? And so you just ditch the whole thing. But it's amazing how good you feel about yourself, how much confidence you gain when you break it down into small, manageable, bite-sized pieces and then just keep adding.
Okay. All right. So after hearing everything you've said, right, I feel like I've learned so much. I've learned so much already. And I hope my listeners are gonna also learn and try to, implement it in their daily lives because it's a very, very important message. And it's important also for self-development. And yeah, it brings me to ask just this one question, right? So what exactly are you currently working on that or building that excites you the most right now? And looking ahead, what kind of impact do you hope your story or your work will have on others?
Oh my goodness. Well, as I said, I am venturing into this children's book uh, authorship. My book, The Sprinkle Effect, I want to take those messages, which, as we've been talking, just sprinkling in little things in your life. And the book also talks about sprinkles of different types of qualities, like belief, a sprinkle of belief and mindset and resilience, joy, curiosity, those kinds of things. And I wanted to take those concepts and then turn it into something that children can learn and relate to. So I am currently writing a children's picture book. I've finished the first draft. And again, this is a whole new world for me. This is a very different thing than writing an adult book. You don't need illustrations in an adult book. The story has to be so much more succinct. It's very, very, very different. But the idea that I can take my message and help other people starting at 4 years old, where my picture book starts, right? All the way up to, age 100, and make them realize that you are the one telling yourself these stories, making excuses. Because regardless of your circumstances, you could be in the worst of circumstances. Don't tell me that there's not one small thing that you can do to move yourself forward towards the future that you want. You can. And if you say you can't, you have to realize that it really all starts with what you're thinking.
Okay. So yes, thank you so much, Debbie. This has been amazing, a totally powerful and relatable conversation, actually. And yes, my final question for you today would be, if you could give, although you've been giving a lots of honest piece of advice, right? But I feel like you
Yeah.
still have more to offer, honestly. So if you could give one honest piece of advice to someone in their 20s who feels stuck or feel like life isn't going the way they expected, or are going through, victim mindset or timidity, right? What would it be?
I think it would be that you have to really learn to be honest with yourself and your situation because for me, it was very hard to realize that I was the one holding myself back. I was using the fact, all the excuses, all the circumstances of my life. And I think when you realize everybody's got stuff. Now, you might have more stuff if you're listening, to deal with as a 20-year-old than your friends. Not that I'm wishing something on them, but this is life. Everybody has to deal with different hardships at different points in your life. And just because you might be in a season where, everything feels like it's just coming down all around you, I am telling you that if you take the chance, if you take the time to dream about what you want, even if it seems impossible, and you then figure out one tiny thing. There is always something tiny, just like drinking a quarter cup of water. There is always something that you can do. And I think my last piece of advice is to really be honest with yourself and take responsibility for your life. Don't allow other people or the circumstances that you find yourself in. Don't allow that to control your destiny. No matter what happens, you are always in control.
Okay, that's a very powerful message, Debbie. And yes, it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. It's called the rapid fire segment.
Uh-oh,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so what's one belief that held you back for years?
Oh, I'm not good enough.
Okay, well, thank God you are. All
Thank
right,
you.
and yeah, a small habit that changed your life.
Just attending a Weight Watchers meeting. That was the first
Mm.
step I took.
Wow. Okay. Something people blame instead of taking responsibility for.
Oh, yeah. Well, their circumstances or what other people are saying or doing to them.
Okay. All right. And one thing people overcomplicate about life.
That they overcomplicate. Um, Rapid fire. I'm not rapid fire answering. I think they do. I think we all overcomplicate our circumstances and make them mean more than they really do. Put too much, you know, give them too much power, the circumstances too much power over ourselves.
Right. Okay. And yes, finally, one word that defines your journey.
Mm, Steady.
Steady. Okay. So yes, thank you so much, Debbie. Where can listeners get to learn more about your work, your book, and
Well, the best place is my website.
everything?
Oh, you froze for a minute. The best place is my website. You can get to all my social media, my books, all the things there. There's some free downloads, and it's DebbieRWeiss.com.
Every hour, nice. Okay. For your social media, after this, I'll be following immediately. All right.
Thank you.
So my listeners, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Thank you, Debbie. This was amazing. Totally. I really do appreciate it. And yes,
Oh
I
my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
all right. And yeah, I hope you have a good day ahead of you today.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.